Greg McElroy, ESPN, ABC college football analyst and former quarterback. He won a national championship. And you ask him about it, he'd be happy to tell you how he led Alabama to that national championship. All by yourself, didn't you, Greg?
Yes, it was a one-man effort because football often is, Dan, as you know.
You were like Cam when Cam was at Auburn.
Yeah, just like him. Absolutely. Could not be more comparable. Even in skill set, very similar.
Okay. Is there a downside to the portal, transfer portal?
There is. I think that there's probably more benefit to the teams than there is to the player. We celebrate the individual players that wind up in better situations. We celebrate those that leverage. I mean, the portal now, in a lot of ways, is used in a way that holdouts are used in the NFL to better your NIL situation. So guys will go in not expecting to leave, get re-upped, and then go back to school. So it's used as a leverage mechanism, but I don't think there's enough attention paid to the amount of guys that go in that actually never come out.
Yeah.
They go in and they don't have a home. So we're seeing somewhere in the vicinity of 20 to 25% of the college football players overall entering the portal on a yearly basis. And very few of them are ending up in better situations than the one they departed. And ultimately they end up having to walk on to places, taking on student debt, and that's not ideal. So that's the underbelly and the part that no one wants to talk about. But there is some good in there as well.
Why is Deion losing recruits?
Well, a couple of days ago, about a week ago or so, he came out and said that you'll make money here in the NIL world if you come here and prove it. But we're not going to be the type of school that's going to front load the NIL packages. And I think there was a response to that, and people are kind of connecting the dots. I think it's more about the way they finished and some of the staff turnover that they've experienced. They just lost their offensive coordinator. Well, he was their offensive coordinator. He was demoted midseason, and now he's the head coach at San Diego State. That's Sean Lewis. So that, I think, might have played a role as well. But, I mean, they lost 6 of the last 7 and didn't look great in the process. So I think some of it's momentum-based, and some of it might have to do with what Deion said is related to NIL, and some of it might have to do with staff continuity.
Okay, but how sustainable is this for Deion Sanders? He was the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year. Just named him that. Sustainable of what he's doing in Colorado, in your opinion?
I think it's sustainable in a sense that he's still going to be a hot topic of conversation. I think it's sustainable in the new conference that he's moving into. That's the Big 12 next year. He obviously is well known around the country, but he's really well known and really well respected in the state of Texas, where that's kind of the heart of the Big 12, the new Big 12. So I think that could be beneficial. And we have to also keep in mind, now I'm not going to say that they had a great year. They overachieved on their Vegas win total by a half game. And they needed 2 pretty remarkable upsets to be able to even pull that off. That one against TCU, when they had the surprise element on their side in week 1, when no one knew what they were going to do offensively or defensively. So TCU really didn't know what they were doing. They were kind of preparing for ghosts. But I still think progress was made this year, way more significant as far as their competitiveness in year number 1 than they were in the year before. So I think it's sustainable in the sense that they're going to continue to be a problem for teams, but are they going to take on the college football world and just show you the new frontier? I don't know if I necessarily am going to go down that rabbit hole at the moment.
All right. Tell me why Jim Harbaugh should leave Michigan and why he should stay.
Well, there's a million reasons why he should stay. There's also a million reasons why he should leave. Should leave and will leave are very different things. I think that you go to the NFL. I mean, we fire coaches in the NFL after 10 games. Owner doesn't like you, you're out. we found that out all too often with what's gone on in Carolina the last couple of years. But there's a million examples of guys that have gotten less than 2 years. Right now, he could stay at Michigan for as long as he wants. And I think they got a real chance to win the national championship this year. And they match up pretty well against every team that might make the college football playoff. I think they look like they're in a pretty good spot to handle their business this weekend and maybe even become the number one overall seed, depending on what happens with Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship. So I think there's more reasons to stay than there are to go. But Jim Harbaugh is a competitive guy, almost to a point where it might even be considered a character flaw. But I don't necessarily see it that way. But he lost to his brother and had it at the 5-yard line going in. And I would imagine that's something that eats at him probably every day. So the opportunity to get back and kind of right the wrongs of what went down this last time in San Francisco, I wouldn't be shocked if he took one. But I think he's going to take the right one. I mean, there's been rumors every year that he's going to go. It's been Indianapolis, it's been Minnesota, it's been Vegas, it's been Denver. I mean, I thought he might take all four, and he hasn't yet. So if the right one presents itself with a quality quarterback and a good situation with draft picks, I could see him definitely taking one.
Greg McElroy, he was the quarterback of Alabama when they won the national title in 2010. He works for the mothership. He has the Always College Football podcast on ESPN. Florida State is without its best player. If you're the committee, let's say Florida State wins, beats Louisville. Do they pass the eye test without having their best quarterback? Because that you want the 4 best teams in the playoffs. Would Florida State be one of the 4 best teams in America?
Well, Dan, I know what the committee tells us, right? But they have not saying what you expect it to be and actually doing it are 2 very different things. They have not put in the 4 best teams multiple times. Now, we haven't had drama in our sport since 2018. That was the last time we had drama on selection day. So it's been a while. It's been pretty cut and dry, chalky, 4 teams that are really qualified with an outlier that might be able to make their way in. So it's been pretty easy to digest since 2018. The last time, though, in 2018, Ohio State was left out. They were lost by 29 points to Purdue that year. They were 12-1 Big Ten Conference title champions. They were left out in favor of Oklahoma, who lost by 3 earlier in the season to Texas and avenged that loss. So it was pretty understandable that Oklahoma be in over Ohio State, but that was really the last controversial decision. But if it was really the 4 best, and here's where I have a problem with it, Dan. I know you are like me, like you love sports and you want to see the best and most competitive environments. I do too, and I don't want to see blowouts in the semifinal games of the national championship. That's bad for the sport. But if we're really going to go with the 4 best, then why don't we just let the NFL scouts tell us who the 4 best are? Why don't we let Vegas give us their power ratings? And here's the 4 best, and we just play a 15-way round robin because these teams have the most pros. If you're going 4 best, then you're probably going to go some combination of Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas. Those teams have the most pros. But that's not what it should be about. I mean, we, in our sport, more than any others, the regular season has to matter. I mean, it's our strongest attribute is our regular season. Our postseason has been a mess for forever. And people have, I think, been turned off by the sport because of the postseason structure, whether it was when they voted for championships or it was just 2 and now it's 4 and they think good teams could still make it. I mean, the NFL regular season is elite because of fantasy and all these other amazing things that we follow. But the NFC South is going to get a team in the playoff. Should they? Absolutely not. That's not one of the 8 best teams, 10, 15, 16 best teams in the league. No way, no
and
how.
host a playoff and host a playoff
and host a playoff game against the team in the wild card that's probably better than them. So the NFL postseason structure is amazing, and it's easy to justify. It's easy to comprehend and consume. Ours is very difficult. That's why we're going to the 12 team, which would be good. But Florida State should get in. They did what was asked of them. They scheduled a difficult team out of conference. That would be LSU. They won that game by 21 points. And while they lost their quarterback, a team is more than one individual player. I mean, would anybody have picked the Patriots to win the Super Bowl against the greatest show on turf with Tom Brady? I mean, you never know what your backup quarterback might do when given the opportunity. So there have been a bunch of examples of backup quarterbacks, even in the NFL, that have gone on and have great careers. Tony Romo, Brady, a million others that have been thrust into the spotlight and end up being better than their predecessors. So I don't know if Tate Rodemaker is going to be that for Florida State. Probably not. But who am I to judge what that team should be able to do moving forward? They should make it in my opinion.
Give me the surprise this weekend.
Oh, I think Bama's going to beat Georgia. I really do. I think they match up really well. And Georgia is excellent. They're really good. And they have an elite quarterback. And Dan, you'll be talking about this guy for a long time. Carson Beck's going to make a lot of money at the next level. I think he is at worst, third, fourth best prospect coming out. And it's only because he just doesn't have that much tape. But I think he's right there alongside Drake May and Caleb Williams. I think he's that good. So he's unbelievable. They have great weapons on the perimeter. Brock Bowers at tight end. Lad McConkey, who's their number one receiver, but he's been a little banged up this year. They've had a few guys banged up offensively. But the problem with Georgia is their defense is just not what it was. I mean, when you think Georgia, you're thinking, oh my gosh, like the last 2 years, they are unbelievable on the defensive side. They've been gashed for 200 multiple times on the ground this year. Yeah. Auburn did it. Bama has elite speed and good offensive line, a quarterback that can really hurt you. Georgia's 112th in the country on yards given up on zone reads, which is nuts to me. A Georgia defense giving up 6 yards per carry on zone read. That's nuts. So I think Bama actually matches up really well. And Georgia now is riding a 29-game win streak, and I think it might come to an end on Saturday afternoon.
You played for Nick Saban. What kind of pep talk do you think he'll have coming up this weekend?
Well, when I was playing, we've been doing the show together I've been on a guest with you guys for 14 years. I would have probably gotten something along the lines of "Don't screw it up." That would have been the message to me at quarterback.
So there's no rah-rah. There's no fire and brimstone. Win one for the Gipper.
Well, I'd love to tell you that there was. He's kind of the same guy. And that's why I think the team is so steady. He doesn't ramp it up for specific games. I mean, what you get when you're playing Chattanooga is the same as what you'll get from Arkansas, is the same as what you'll get in the pregame leading up to Georgia. Everyone else, like, he doesn't need to energize his team. Like, he knows how to press the buttons. If anything, he wants to kind of bring them down a little bit because they're probably going to be on edge. Yeah. The biggest game they've had all year. It's probably going to be a little ramped up, maybe a little emotional. He's probably going to bring them down to earth just a little bit this week and kind of, hey, calm. We're going to be fine. Just execute the plan. Do your job. That's been the message kind of leading into the game. So you would expect him tossing tables and, like Lou in Major League where he's flipping tables and stuff. It's not really how he is. He's not banging lockers. If anything, he's trying to meet you in the middle because you're already going to be ramped up. So I think he's the best at what he does and being able to kind of keep things consistent. And that's why his team has performed so beautifully in games like this. He's 10-1 in SEC championship games in his career. 10-1, which is really insane.
I just can't imagine your coach as you're getting ready to go out, play for a national championship. Hey, hey, McElroy, don't screw it up. All right, let's go get it. That
pretty much.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll be honest with you. If I were in his shoes, I would have probably said the same thing.
Great to talk to you,
Don't
Greg.
Screw it up, Greg.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, buddy. All right. That's
Appreciate
Greg McElroy, works for the mothership. He was part of Georgia Tech broadcast. He'll be calling the Big 12 title game, Oklahoma State and Texas. That'll be noon Eastern.